Welcome to Sally's story. Today we want to tell you about Sally because we find that Sally represents many residents in aged care facilities across Australia. We hope that her story shows you how the approach to assessment can make a big difference to the Sallys in your care. Let's meet Sally. Sally is an 84-year-old lady who can no longer manage at home and requires admission to residential aged care. On admission, Sally's diagnosis is severe osteoarthritis of her lower back, right knee, frozen right shoulder, congestive cardiac failure, and type 2 non-insulin dependent diabetic. Cognitively, Sally is as sharp as a tack. To demonstrate the difference that two approaches to assessment can make, we're going to place Sally in two different facilities, Facility A and Facility B. Both facilities recently went through accreditation and achieved the 44 outcomes. Both had reports from the Australian Aged Care Quality Agency that read, "No further recommendations," which is about as good as it can get. These are clearly two well-run facilities with robust systems in place. First, let's have a look at Sally's health journey as she enters Facility A. Facility A's approach to assessment is what we call acute or do-based, which means they're very responsive to events that occur and clinically assessed on what the staff are currently doing for the resident. Facility A has robust clinical systems in place, ensuring over the first 4 to 5 weeks, Sally has numerous assessments conducted. Following these assessments, a care plan is generated and her ACFI appraisal is submitted to Medicare.
At first, Sally travels along quite well in the facility. She settles in nicely and is loved by all. Unfortunately, after a couple of months, she has a fall in the toilet. Fortunately, however, Sally doesn't break any bones, but she is pretty battered and bruised and has lacerations on her face and arms. Worst of all, Sally loses her confidence. We immediately start an investigation. We look to the care plan to see what is recommended regarding Sally's toileting needs. The care plan states that Sally is independent. We then look back further to Sally's original assessment. We see that although the assessment indicates that Sally is pretty unsteady on her feet, she is cognitively intact and fiercely independent and is determined she wants to toilet herself. Hence, the decision was made that the care plan should state that Sally is independent. After her fall, Sally is reassessed and it is established that she requires one assist in order to keep her safe. She begins improving, stabilises, but never gets back to where she was. She goes along quite well for a month or so when she sustains a skin tear on her lower leg. Dressings begin immediately, as does an investigation. We can go to the care plan to find out what it states regarding Sally's needs for skin management. The care plan states that Sally only needs her skin to be moisturised following her shower of the morning. Again, we look at the initial assessment. The assessment states that Sally has a number of scars on her lower legs and generally very dry skin. It also says that she has a few keratosis and other age-related spots, but outside of that, her skin is intact. We decide that she doesn't need any intervention other than moisturising daily. This is documented in her care plan. Sally's health begins to deteriorate further and further. She goes from a 1 assist to a 2 assist, from ambulating with a frame to being basically chair-bound and bed-bound. She's not leaving her room. She's in a lot of pain and discomfort, and it's taking a lot of time for everyone to be engaged in her wound management. Sally's treatment continues, but we feel we're starting to lose the battle. We realise that things are starting to creep out of our scope of expertise, so we get in the vascular surgeons and wound specialists to address the problem. Sadly, despite the expertise, Sally's wounds fail to heal, and the decision is made for Sally to have a below-knee amputation. The operation goes well and she comes back to the facility. But sadly, Sally has given up. She feels like a freak and a burden, and doesn't want anyone to see her. She doesn't want her family to visit, and she doesn't want to live anymore. A short time later, Sally passes away.
Let's do some reflection on Facility A's care. Was the care bad? No, it wasn't bad. The facility was quick to action. Additional resources were put in place as soon as the need was identified, and the most qualified people were involved in Sally's care. Let's take a look at the alternative, Facility B, and Sally's health journey here. The main difference between Facility A and Facility B is Facility B's approach to assessment, which is what we call proactive and comprehensive. When Sally arrives, the exact same thing occurs. Over the first 4 to 5 weeks, Sally undergoes numerous assessments. After this, a care plan is generated and her ACFI is submitted to Medicare. The only difference in her assessments and her care planning outcome is that in this facility, everything interlinks. In Facility A, they focus on what was occurring at a specific moment in time when Sally was assessed. Facility B's approach involves looking at the whole picture before making a decision regarding a care plan.
Our assessment process at our facility is we consider the resident's diagnosis, cognitive function and physical function before making any decision on care need. Therefore, we realise through the physio assessment that Sally has an unsupported standing balance of less than 10 seconds, which means she will fall at some point. So the decision is made right away that Sally will need an assist in the toilet. Being a fiercely independent woman, Sally isn't happy with that decision, so we sit down with her and explain that it's our goal to keep her functioning independently. We also explain what the outcome of a fall might be. Sally reluctantly accepts the one assist help. We also take the time to look at her skin assessment and investigate the scars on her lower legs, along with her diabetic and cardiac diagnosis. We consider that if Sally were to have a tear on her leg, it will turn into an ulcer, as it has in the past. Because she is unstable, we know she will bump her legs. So in addition to moisturising, we ask Sally to wear a skin-coloured tubey grip, which will protect both her skin and manage her peripheral edema caused by her cardiac condition.
Sally went along quite well in Facility B. She had a few clinical events, but she didn't have a fall in the toilet. She didn't sustain a skin tear. Therefore, she didn't have any dressings, and she had no leg amputation. Let's look at the difference in ACFI funding between Facility A and B. In Facility A, Sally's ACFI is submitted to Medicare and reimbursed based on acute need, not on comprehensive need, because the care plan says that Sally is independent in various care domains. Facility A receives a lower level of funding. Once Sally's care needs increase, Facility A cannot reapply to Medicare. Even though she gets the skin tear and the treatment starts, it still doesn't meet the business rule requirements of a 2-level increase for her to receive additional funding. It's not until her wound becomes chronic that they are able to reapply, reassess and receive additional funds from Medicare. Since ACFI is not paid in retrospect, the facility has to cover a large cost that is never reimbursed. In Facility B, on the other hand, staff are able to clearly identify from the beginning what Sally requires in order to be proactively managed. The facility therefore receives their full entitled level of ACFI funding to enable the staff to give Sally the proactive care she needs without having to reappraise her for further ACFI funding. That's how ACFI works. It's designed to reward the management of chronic long-term conditions through a process of comprehensive clinical assessment. That means if you complete a thorough comprehensive assessment, like Facility B did, you'll receive your entitled income and you'll be able to give your Sallys the level of care and the quality of life they so richly deserve right from the beginning.